Is anything too hard for the Lord? And then I remember that summer in I think it was my senior year, every other Saturday they had what was called Missionary Chapel. And they would have various missionary speakers, have a film sometimes, and the whole thing was to try to place an emphasis on missions. I don't know if they still do that or not. I don't think they do. And the Lord began to burden me about missions. And I said, Lord, I said I'd be a preacher. I didn't say I'd be a missionary. Notre Dame's nickname is what? The Fighting Irish. Did you know that Lynch is the 5th most common Irish name? I thought, this is one battle this Irishman's going to win. And I said, Lord, I'm not going to be a missionary. Missionaries go strange places and eat weird things. I mean, for heaven's sakes, folks, even down in South Carolina, they ate grits. I even saw that on the menu in Pennsylvania this way. Well, I can't believe that. Now, with all due respect, Joan likes cheese grits with shrimp. I'll take the shrimp and the cheese, and you can forget the grits. And in the Philippines, they eat balut. You all know what balut is? It's a fertilized duck egg, but it's not like the fertilized egg you can buy at the farmer's market. The fertilized duck egg has been incubated, and it's about 2 or 3 days before it hatches, and they boil it, and you crack the shell, and you suck the juice, and you pop the thing in your mouth and swallow it whole. Sometimes they chew it. I can't think of anything more disgusting in my life. It's like eating an aborted cat. And fortunately, I've been to the Philippines 6 times, but I was offered it once as a joke by an American missionary, but I've never had to eat that stuff. And so I said, Lord, I'm not going to be, that's final. And I'm so thankful that the Lord didn't give up on me. I marvel at God's patience, and finally I came to what I would call a breaking point where I said, okay, Lord, if that's what you want, I'll do it, but you're going to have to open the door, and you're going to have to give me a love for it, and you're going to have to help me with languages because I'm not good at languages. As soon as I surrendered to missions, figuring that's where I was going to wind up, you know what happened? The burden for missions was lifted from my shoulders. And as I look back, it wasn't so much that God wanted me to be a career missionary, say, to the Philippines or to India or to Canada. But God, and here's the key, God wanted me to be willing to go if it was his will. And I will tell young people and young adults as well, even older adults, unless you are willing to go anywhere, do anything, be anything, you will never know that what you are doing is what God really wants you to do or be. We had a man in our church when I was an assistant pastor. He was in his mid-40s, and he was a welder at the shipyard, and God laid a burden on his heart for missions. He applied to mission board after mission board after mission board. Nobody would take him. You have no Bible school training. You're too old. You don't have what it takes. And he was getting discouraged. And there was one mission board. Sadly, it was a new evangelical compromising board that we could not support, but they took him. So we sent our support directly to him rather than to the mission board. And the Lord led him to Papua New Guinea to serve as he and his wife and their children as house parents, dorm parents for the other missionaries. And also he was the maintenance man and the mechanic to keep all the vehicles. Folks, somebody has to do that. And while he was there in the first term, they lost their youngest child to a native disease. Later, his wife was killed in a car accident, and he married another missionary later. And his son is now back in there. He's with the good board now, though. His son's back in Papua New Guinea serving the Lord as well. There's a possibility, depending on my health, that we may be able to go there in late January, early February of 27. We're planning a trip back to Australia for 2 weeks and then back to Manila for a few days and then a week and a half in Cebu before coming home. And a lot of that's going to depend on how this leg situation and everything else develops, so might make that a matter of prayer. So what I'd like to do tonight is share some pictures of our trip. This past February, Joan and I spent 5 weeks in the Philippines, and it was a wonderful, wonderful time. So what I'm going to do is do it week by week, rather than showing let's see here, I need to do this. I guess it's already done. Can we have the lights dimmed, please? Because you don't need to have the lights. You're like going to a theater tonight, right? Is that good? Can you see it all right? Let me move this stool over here a little closer to this machine. By the way, I meant to mention, I didn't, but we need to pack everything up and load the load the car tonight. We have a few guys here to help and some ladies. All right, let's see here. Where are we? What do I need to hit? I'm a little confused here. Oh, there we go. Okay, now I need to hit this button down here. Oh, this has to be in here. I know where I am now. There we go. There we go. I was where I needed to be. Okay. I think this is the way we do it. Yep. We had to drive from Greenville to Atlanta. It takes about 3 hours to get there. We had to be there about 4 hours early, so it was 7 hours already. We had a 10-and-a-half-hour flight from Atlanta with an 11-hour layover in Istanbul, Turkey, and a final 10-hour flight from there to Manila. So it was a long trip. My daughters were concerned about us being in Istanbul, saying they don't like Americans. Well, they took very good care of us. And this is the way we were scooted around, and that electric scooter, battery-operated scooter. And at one point, Joan and I, it was the middle of the night, we went down to, I think it was a McDonald's or Burger King was open, so we went down to grab a bite to eat because we were hungry. And they saw us down there. We're supposed to be up there with all the old people, the wheelchair people are. And we were down there, and they saw us, and they sent 2 scooters out to pick us up and take us back up there. They really were very, very good. Should I tell them the story of what happened in Istanbul? You'll love this. About 5 o'clock in the morning, stores were beginning to open up, and there was a little cafe type thing that was opening up. So I went over and I bought a sandwich and a drink, and I bought a piece of cheesecake for Joan. And when I went to pay, there was a guy standing there to take my payment, and it was a pretty young lady, probably in her mid-20s, maybe mid to late 20s, and he said to me, "She thinks you're cute." I said, "Get out of here. I'm too old for her." No. The older ones are the best ones, security. And so I'm a happily married man. And then she said something to him, and she wants to know if your wife is still alive. I said, "Yes, she's sitting right over there." Oh, so that was it. So I didn't tell Joan. So I went back and gave her the meal. And then they had fresh squeezed orange juice. So I said, "Honey, would you go back and get me a glass of orange juice?" I didn't want to go back there. And she didn't know anything about it. So finally, when did I tell you? When you came back with the orange juice? Is that when I told you about it? And she just laughed. I thought, well, if she ever decides to do something, I know where I can get a wife. An easy fix. Oh, that was kind of embarrassing. Okay, the Philippines are comprised of over 7,600 islands covering approximately 115,800 square miles. Only 2,000 of the islands are inhabited. There are 5,000 that don't even have names. So you can buy an island over there and name it after yourself. The circled areas are where we ministered. There were actually 5 different areas, as you can tell there. The first one on the left there was in the island of Palawan, which is the westernmost island in the Philippines. We were smart enough to decide to take a hotel room in Manila for 2 nights so we could have a little time to adjust and to recover from some jet lag. And then it was on to Brooks Point, Palawan, in the southern part of the island. It was about a 2-hour flight and then another 3 to 4 hour drive down to the bottom of it. And we were with Pastor Jethro at Brooks Point Baptist Church. Jethro, the pastor's in the blue shirt. The gentleman next to him with less than a full head of hair is my medical doctor friend. He's retired now, Dr. Alberto Lopez from Puerto Rico, and he's a very fine violinist. So he preceded me there by a couple of weeks, and then we did a couple of classical sacred concerts. The Philippines is considered the only Christian country with 82%. It used to be close to 90. I'm not sure where the difference has come in. And a lot of palm trees. How you like that one? I have a name for that. I think I can be safe in saying it here. We call it a Democrat tree. It's crooked. All right. I shouldn't have said that. All right, this is the signs that welcomed us there, and this was our first meal there. There's shark steaks or tuna steaks, and there's lobster, and there's shrimp, and there's lapu-lapu fish, and all kinds of stuff. Man, I'll tell you what. And there we are enjoying that meal. Now, the lady next to Joan, her name is Faye. She's the pastor's wife, the wife of the founding pastor, along with a Baptist missionary. The two of them work together in getting the church. I think it's about 30-some years old. And they run about 300 people now. And it's the most colorful church I've ever been in. Isn't that pretty? And here's the inside of it. And they have a Christian school of about over 300 students. Southern Palawan Christian Academy, SPCA. I told the kids, man, when I came here and saw the SPCA, I thought it was coming to an animal shelter. You know, Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. They had no idea what that was. And that's their athletic court, and you see the mountains in the background there. The students all line up, even in Christian and public schools, every morning for flag raising. I don't know what they do in the rain. The last time I was there, the previous March, I was able to speak to over 1,300 school students and faculty and staff at a flag raising. I was supposed to do one violin number and speak for about 10 minutes. I wound up playing 4 numbers and preached for about 20 minutes. And when I got done, the Roman Catholic principal thanked me for preaching a gospel message. Wow. Just a couple of pictures of how they greeted us. And Joan makes a pretty good preacher there. Actually, she's just giving her testimony. And there's some of their school students. And if only we could let the world be run by the kids. 6th grade and under. Man, I wonder how things would be different. I have never run into so many violin players in my life as I did on this trip. There was probably 7 or 8 of them there, and we had a good time of playing together. That's the poster they had for our concert that we did, and that's the way they decorated the auditorium for the concert. They really got into it. It was fairly well attended, I would say, and at least one young lady accepted the Lord after the message was brought by Pastor Jethro. And so it was worth it all. And there's their choir. And I want to tell you, the guy in the black there is the choir director. He's in his late 20s. Nice young man, needs a wife. And he's very marriageable. And that choir, I want to tell you, sounded as good as any choir from Maranatha or Bob Jones. They were good. And he had everything under control, and it was a joy to hear them sing, both in English as well as in whatever language they speak there. Well, there's more than one. There's Tagalog, and then there's the other one, Cebuano. That's Mama Faye and Joan. I love this picture here. We're back really in the jungle. And you see the arrow there. That's where the people from the Mount Sarai Bible Mission came from. It was a 2-hour walk to hear the message, the gospel. And we could not go there. I never could have made the trip up. And there's no roads. You couldn't drive there. You had to walk or ride a horse. There were no horses available. So they came to us. And 2 hours for them to get there. And this is the building that we're able to use. It's kind of like a community building. And again, Joe's not preaching. She's giving her testimony. Not many pictures of me because I was taking the pictures. So just to qualify there. And we had a good group of people there, and when the invitation was given, there were several that were being counseled with afterwards. And that's always a precious time. And these are the people there. One lady was about 7 months expecting, and I thought maybe she might have the baby on the way back with that long walk like that. That's the same area where we just were. It's a lot different than the city. I'm glad we were able to get into one of the rural areas so Joan could see what it's really like to be in the jungle. And here I thought, what are the kids all lining up for? And they were going to bid us farewell when we were leaving to head back to Luzon. Before we did, we had one night meeting in the Puerto Princesa Bible Church. They're without a pastor. Pastor Jethro's brother was the pastor, but he suffered a major stroke and is out of the ministry right now, so they're currently without a pastor. Before we went to bed, we went out for a bite to eat. Dr. Lopez didn't know I took this picture, and he didn't know it until he came to one of my presentations and saw it. And that's the picture. Doesn't he look like he's pondering those two questions? Now, my thought is, if they can make a pizza pie that big, why can't they make a coconut cream pie that big? Week 2, we spent in Quezon City in the Metro Manila area. It's called Metro Manila. I'm not sure if there actually is a Manila. It's a whole bunch of cities like New York, except that it is 3 times larger than New York. Okay, what did I do here? It's not working here. Pastor, I got something up here that ought not to be here. Let's see here. This thing here, what? Go to next, maybe? There we go, I'm back. Thank you. Twice plus bigger than New York City. That's less than 1/3 of the picture. We were supposed to be there for sunset, having a meal at this nice restaurant overlooking the city. And if you would pan, it would be probably about 3.5 times of that for the city. And all this in front of that is just the poverty, the residential areas. That's Joan overlooking the city at night. The first ministry we had was at Bethel Baptist Church in Quezon City. The pastor there, his name is Pastor Phil Kamibayashiyama. He grew up in Chicago. He went to Bob Jones, and in English class, the teacher just said Phil. She didn't even dare to try his last name. And she saw him later on campus and said, Phil, if you need help with your English, I'll be glad to help you. And he was embarrassed. He just said, well, thank you, He didn't tell her he was raised in Chicago. He speaks fluent English. So he had a lot of fun with that. He's also the president of Bob Jones Memorial Bible College. That's his church choir singing. Our next ministry was the Living Word Baptist Church. And again, Dr. Lopez and I provided music. And here was another church that had a bunch of musicians. The gal here, I can't point it out to you. I don't think I can, no. Well, she's behind the guy in the right-hand picture, the guy standing on the left. The gal behind him is a violist. She's the wife of the national pastor there, so she's an American missionary. And they had a bunch of cellists and violists, and we had a great time after the service just having fun musically. And then we went to Bob Jones Memorial Bible College. There's no connection with Bob Jones University. It's named in honor of Dr. Bob Jones Sr. That's their debt-free building, and they have over 100 students. The very top floor is their athletic field. You don't have athletic fields here like we do in the States. And everything goes up because there's no room to go out. And where the chapel is where those windows are. And that's on the 1, 2, 3, 4th floor. And it was all concrete steps, and they're not even steps. You know how they build them? One's taller than the other. And it was just struggle. But they had an elevator. But guess what? It was broken. So when I came home, I sent him a check for $1,000 to get the thing fixed for the next guy. And anyway, we had a great time there. I did a series on principles of Christian music. And then they did something unique on Monday nights. They had about 85 string players from all over the Metro Manila area from like-minded churches to get together. And the director there studied conducting at BJU. And they have a 1-hour practice session. And then they have a devotional time where I spoke, and then they broke up into individual private, smaller sections, because not everybody's at the same level. And they would come back for a final practice, and after 6 weeks, they would give a concert. And what was unique about it was a wonderful opportunity for kids to get to meet other kids that you don't normally do. I mean, it took us, was it an hour and a half, John, to go 4 miles from where we stayed to the Bible college? You don't have evening meetings, week-long meetings here because people can't get around. The traffic is unbelievable. It's worse than Atlanta, and that's going to be the worst place in the country. Anyway, enough of that. So that was a wonderful time for them to make music together. Then Gospel Light Baptist Church, again, Dr. Lopez and I performed together, did a music program, and then doing an object lesson, I asked for the fourth grade class teacher to come up. And when she came up, everybody was clapping and everything. And I asked her, I said, I want your best behaved 4th grade boy. She said, that's easy. I only have one. So he came up and I did an object lesson with him. Week number 3 was in Pasig City, still in the Metro Manila area, at Foundation Baptist Church with Dr. Roberto Livioca. I was with them 30 years ago, and he's one of the leading fundamental pastors there in the area. Now, they're located in the downtown business district. They meet in a hotel conference room. They don't have any facilities of their own because of the expense. Here's a picture of where they're located. And there's no property available, and so they do what they can do. It's an inner city church, but it's in the financial district. There's Pastor Livioco and his wife Imelda, and his son Jonathan and his wife. And Jonathan and I, Dr. Lopez, I did 2 concerts, and then I did 2 more concerts with Jonathan. Then we moved on to Navotas City in the northern part of Metro Manila to Unity Baptist Church, and that's the road in, and that's the road out. I didn't think we were going to have any side view mirrors left on the car when we got out of there. That's how narrow it was. But what a wonderful time of preaching and singing. Those people know how to sing. I hope you'll learn how to sing too, to lift your voices. American churches, and I don't say this to be critical, but American churches tend to sing ho-hum, half-hearted. We don't really put our heart and soul into it. And boy, if we did, it would change the services. It really would. And they sing. You almost couldn't record it because it would distort the recording. And they would sing song after song, and then I get up to preach and play, and there's the pastor and his wife. And after the service was over, one of the students asked me something technical about the violin. I don't remember what it was. And I said, well, let me show you, but easier to show you than to try to explain it to you. So I got my violin back out, and I started to play something to show them by what I meant by that. Well, come on, get out of here. And before long, they were singing along with me. And for almost an hour, we sang song after song after song. And you talk about, they didn't want to quit. Finally, we had to quit because we had to go. And he's the only, that young man is the only necktie I saw the whole trip. Now, these guys, we couldn't get a barong to fit me. The Filipino people are basically fairly small and petite. 5'8", 5'10". I'm 6'2". So I thought, next time I go, they dress like a Filipino when they come here. I'm going to dress like an American when I go there, and I'm going to wear my necktie. Then we got to speak to only 1 grade. The school was a large school. I only got to speak to the 6th grade. That's the 6th grade class, over 600 strong, about 3,000 in this public school. And, we can't get into public schools in America, but we can there. It's almost an open invitation. And so we had 1 hour with these kids. So we did a half-hour music program. And then afterwards, we gave out gospel tracts to all the students. And we gave Tagalog Bibles to the faculty. And the principal of the high school was trying to see if they could get pastor in there for a once-a-week Bible study. And or to be taught like a module every 3 months. And I love this next 2 pictures. The students were given gospel tracts, and right away they start reading them. And look at the seriousness on their faces. Our next meeting was at Shekinah Glory Baptist Church. And there's the pastor, Pastor David de la Paz. And that was the one church I was their music was not exactly where I am, but some of it was most of it was right on the line. I don't like music that's on the line. I like to stay away from the cliff. I like to stay away from the slippery slope, not soap. All right. It's been a long day, Pastor. Then this is really unique. We had an opportunity to do a mini classical sacred concert followed by a Bible message when I preached from Isaiah 53 to the local government officials in the chairman's office, comparable to a city council. And it went over so well that Pastor Livioco has already been invited back. He's already gone back once a month for an hour's Bible study. And so we got to play. There's the Blessed Virgin, making sure we didn't make any wrong notes. And there's the chairman of the council. And then afterwards, we gave Tagalog Bibles. And gospel tracts to all the members there. And one of the council members went out and she said to me, "This has been good for the soul." And now it was so well received. Pastors are already going back now once a month for a 1-hour Bible study. What an opportunity. Can you imagine that? You can't even go to a school board meeting and express your opinion and disagree with the school board anymore without getting in trouble. Our weeks 4 and 5 were spent in Lapu-Lapu City on the island of Cebu. Lapu-Lapu is named after the warrior Lapu-Lapu who killed Magellan near the spot. Now, we were there. I took that picture, but I didn't take the picture at the site because it was raining that day. When I was in the airport, there was a big poster, and I took a picture of the poster. And I fixed it so it looks like I took it. Anyway, that's where they put us, in a 10th floor. It was the 10th floor of this condominium. Now, we were opposite that one, and in between, you can see at the bottom there a huge swimming pool. And there's Pastor Dan Tesson and Joan. And this was a luxury condominium, folks. Are you ready for this? That's it. Behind the sink is a bathroom and a shower with no hot water. And there was a king-size bed here with a bunk bed over top of it. They did have a washer, which was great, because we could, and a little kitchen area. There was no stove, but it was a hot plate. And there was this thing here kind of pulled out so I could have a desk to do a little bit of studying on. And that was it. It probably was not as big as the platform of the choir loft, and it was not as big as that. Here was our balcony. I was afraid to walk out on that balcony for fear I might lose my balance and fall overboard. And 10 floors down. This is the view from our balcony. Now, it looks pretty nice because a lot of green and blue, but it's a poverty-stricken area. And look in the opposite direction, that's what you see. It's amazing. You have all this poverty, and then right next to it, super modern. Downtown, you have these, near the channels, you'll see houses on stilts and no electricity, no running water, no plumbing. They have a room with a hole in the floor, and so you do your business and it just drops into the channel. Talk about pollution. And right across the river, there's this super modern mall that makes the best of our malls look antique. Anyway. Sadly, we started our meeting there with a funeral for a 3-year-old girl. I was asked to play 2 numbers on the violin, and I asked the pastor, I said, I feel kind of strange about this. I'm not a member of the church. I don't know these people. I'm a stranger. I'm an American. He said, listen, you have no idea what that meant to her. They love the American people, and you made her funeral special. Nobody has a violinist playing music at a funeral. And the little girl was born with cerebral palsy. Her father is an alcoholic, a drunkard, and abusive. The woman has 7 other kids. They live in a house, again, with no electric, no plumbing, and no water. They live in a slum area, but she was there for every service. Now, Pastor Tesson did do the preaching. I did the music. And by the way, that woman was there for every service of her 8-day meeting, and she brought a carload of kids with her. She didn't drive, but the one who picked her up brought a carload of kids from the slum area. Then they put us in several mission churches. The Jesus Saves Mission, started by Dr. Peter Ng in Singapore. His idea was you go into the slums and you live amongst the people and you work with them and you lead them to Christ and you start a church. And their churches, the platforms are very colorful. This one school, a church had a school of 2 grades, and after the Sunday school hour, they asked all the church members to go to the back to make room for the parents because they had a special program. And the place was packed that morning. Probably I preached to more unsaved people, well, probably the Christians at the public school, but in churches, there's just most of them were unsaved people. And that's the church group. They celebrated our 2nd anniversary a little early at a nice restaurant, and that cake there was pretty good. And this is where we've stayed. And now you see the water line there, that's the bay. Lapu-Lapu City is on the other side of the bay, and where the arrow's pointing is approximately where we stayed. This is the normal way, the cheap way of getting around Manila and other places. We didn't see much of this in Cebu. They have it in Manila, they have it in Mindanao. They're called the jeepney. This is one of the poor areas where the Jesus Saves Missions works. And this again is one of the neighborhoods there, the slum areas. And there's their auditorium. Boy, they like color, don't they? And this is the oops, no, what did I do? Yeah, there's the auditorium. And here's the church that met in a carport. Couldn't think of it. And I like the way these girls are dressed. And they really put their heart and soul into the music. And the church group, normally that we were with, has a Sunday afternoon service. They said, Pastor, can we cancel our Sunday afternoon? We want to go with you and the Lynches. And it was good for them to see some of the slum churches because now they've got a burden. They see how good God's been to them because they have a debt-free, nice building that was paid for by their tithes and their offerings. Okay, then we were at Buno High School. The principal here asked us, are you ready for this? The principal of a public school in a Catholic country asked us for 1,000 Bibles. Now, the Bible that we had to give them was only a Gospel of John and Romans, but it's the Scripture. So we were able to distribute those. We did 16 classes. I did 3 of those. We ran out of time due to the last, so we didn't have time for him to interpret. I would play the violin and then give a gospel message from John 3. And after I got done playing, I'd say, oh, we have a gift for you. And we'd pass out these Gospel of Johns. Now turn to page 3 and had them read out loud in unison John 3:16 to 18. It brought tears to my eyes to hear public school students reading the Bible in their own language out loud. By the way, Pastor has already gone back now. Is it once a month he goes back, or is it once a week? I don't remember. But the kids still have their Gospel of John's, and he's teaching them to memorize Bible verses, and he's teaching them gospel songs, and they're loving it. This was 10th and 11th grade. Aren't they beautiful people? This is Pastor Tessin. Now, my time's gone. I need another 5 minutes. I need another 10 minutes. Another 20 minutes. He did not feel comfortable translating. Now, when we first met him, we thought, oh boy, what's this going to be like? He would tell you he was the kind of a student in junior high school that everybody shunned. He was different. But boy, he made a good missionary. But so what we did was I presented my whole first point. Normally you preach a sentence, and you go sentence by sentence with the interrupter, the interpreter. But what we did here was I would preach my whole first point. While I'm doing that, he's taking lots of notes. Then it's like, I'm the prosecuting attorney, here's the defense, you're a witness, and he'd get up and he would summarize it. And if I used a gesture, he would use the same gesture. And then he would sit down, I'd do point number 2, and that's the way we went back and forth with the message. And people who understood both languages commented how much they got out of it. Now, he does not drive a car. He has this guy who drives him around. I don't blame him for not owning a car and driving. We were an hour and a half before he picked us up at the airport. He was inside and we were outside. We must have crossed when we got there. Anyway, does his face tell you anything about what kind of ride we had? And that's Pastor Dan working with me. And that's Joan sharing her testimony on Sunday morning. And they had a celebration for our 2nd anniversary, but it was a mocha cake. Folks, let me tell you something. Coffee belongs in a cup on somebody else's plate. Doesn't belong in a cake. But we did it. And there's the lady who lost her 3-year-old daughter and some of the kids he brought with her. Joan looks like she's having a jolly good time. I wonder why. The one little girl in the red, every night she'd come, she'd look around for Joan, and she'd run around and give her a big hug around her legs, and just didn't want to let go. These kids probably have never had a hug before. Joan, would you tell them about this for me? Maisel. Can you all hear in the back?
She was 19, and she had this little boy. She was not married. She wasn't saved. She got saved, I think, either shortly before he was born or after he was born. And he's 11 now, but she brings him to church, and he is her life. And that young boy, I could see him being a Filipino evangelist. There's somebody from that region. He's
She's very quiet.
Yeah, I don't think she would maybe ever get married. I don't know, it would have to be a real certain person to marry.
He and I kind of hit it off, didn't we? The boy and I kind of hit it off.
Yeah, Evangelist.
By the way, she was one of several in the church who took off the whole week. She had to find a replacement at her own expense so they could be there at all the meetings. Shopkeepers closed their shops early so they could be there at all the meetings. This is the church that they have now. When they were meeting for 13 years in a rented facility, it was sold out from under them. And Pastor said, we need a building of our own. They said, we can't afford it. He said, yes, you can. How? He said, with your tithes and offerings. For 13 years, other than their actual expenses, he was putting all the offerings in a savings account at the bank. And after 13 years, they had enough to buy a property that was unfinished. They were able to buy it and finish it, and it's beautiful. It's right in the heart of a slum area. It's like you could do heart surgery and it's so clean. And it's all paid for. There's not one American dollar. Pastor says, you know, too many Americans come to a country like the Philippines, and they have their support, and the churches in America send money to buy property, to build their buildings. And he said, the Filipinos look at it as the American church, not their church. We started an American church. We have the same programs, the same schedule. We call everything by the same names that we do. It's just like an American church over there. He said, Americans need to learn to think like the nationals. And he has been very, very successful. And when he started the church, nobody had a job and nobody had a car. 13 years later, of his congregation of about 50 people, almost everybody has a job. And most people, not everybody, there are a few that don't have a car, and some have 2 cars. And their parking lot was about the size of half of this auditorium or less. You wanted to get there late if you're driving so you could get the best park. The best parking space was the last one, so you could get out first. And this lady on the left, the gentleman and the older lady and the girl in the middle are her parents and sister. The baby's hers. And she paid for her parents to come all the way from southern Mindanao in order to be there for the meetings. They were staunch Roman Catholics. They were kind of cool to us at first, but they warmed up. And on the next to the last night, the lady there accepted Christ as her Savior. They actually prepared a meal for us. And we were very, very proud of them, what they did. So there you have it. And I don't have time for any message, so do you have any questions you'd like to ask at this point? Because our time is gone.
When do you plan on going back, Brother Ken? You mentioned
Lord willing, I'd like to go back. We're tentatively scheduled to go back in February. If we go to what's the other place? Papua. We'll go probably the end of January. Otherwise, we're planning to be there in February of 27. I'll be 81 at the time. So anyway, this is part of what your support of our ministry goes to help with. And so I'm glad that the pastor gave us the opportunity to share this with you. Pastor, let you close as